You've tamed the voices in your head. You've put your courage to the test. Laid all your doubts to rest.
Hi everyone, welcome from your Intuition Queen to a new episode of Intuitive Queens podcast. Today, I have the pleasure to have with me Jolinda Johnson, who is a women's health coach. Hi Jolinda, welcome.
Hi Mara, nice to be here.
Thank you for being here. So, you help women with their health, and we'll get into this in a moment. But first, I'd love for you to tell us, how did your intuition play a role in your life and what you do now?
Well, I've always been highly intuitive. I grew up as an only child in Detroit, Michigan, and my parents have a huge backyard, front yard. I mean, I was blessed to always grow up with a mother who gardened, and I remember spending so many days in my childhood just being outside and, spending time in nature, talking with the flowers and the trees.
That's nice.
When my grandparents died, feeling like they were still around, noticing their presence. As I got older, not really understanding why, but knowing that there were certain streets that I didn't want to go down. Books that called to me without really, just out of the blue sort of things, clues, I like to call them. When I met my first boyfriend in college, he was someone who didn't really make that much sense, but it was, sometimes I experience it like bells going off or chimes. Sometimes I experience it like a hand that's guiding me in the right direction. That happened with him as well. It happened with my current partner, if we're talking about men. My current partner and I met on a train. And we've been together now for almost 2 years. So, the same with choosing this path to be a women's health coach. When I first heard the word coach, it was like a hit, it was a colleague of mine when I was still a teacher, and she was studying to be a life coach, and my ears perked up, and I was very intrigued and also slightly jealous, which jealousy to me is a feeling I always pay attention to, because if I'm feeling jealous, it means that there's something that I'm not doing that I would like to, and that I need to start looking at the actions I need to take to explore that for myself. That's actually how I ended up moving to Spain back in 2008. In 2007, I started noticing all of these people living abroad and became very jealous of those people. And I thought, well, I must want that for myself. And so I was able to make that happen. So when I first heard of her studying to be a coach, I wonder what that would entail. And at the time, I was really obsessed with nutrition. And so for me, it made the most sense to become a holistic health coach, which I did in 2012. And then after a couple of years, I realized that I wanted to go deeper, and I started thinking about maybe acquiring the skills of a life coach, not becoming a life coach, but acquiring skills associated with life coaching, which led me to do a Google search for best books for life coaches, because I'm always a reader and lifelong learner, and that led me to Beautiful You Coaching Academy. And I scrolled down at the end of the article of these books that they recommended. Would you like to explore a program to become a life coach? Clicked on that, read through everything, another intuitive hit, signed up 2 days later, finished that in 2017, in the spring of 2017. Was already working with clients. At that time, I was primarily focused on fertility.
Mm.
And then I realized I wanted to go deeper, and the founder of Beautiful You was offering something called the Priestess Mistress Mind for women who were being called to follow the priestess path. And at the time, I was like, this, the rational brain was like, this makes no sense. Like, the timing is completely wrong. I was recently divorced, still trying to build my business. I thought, how can I commit to one more thing? And so I waited for a month, and then I waited for 6 weeks, and it was, I think, 5 days before enrollment closed. And I just kept getting that same push, like, you have to do this. This is the next step. I said yes. That completely changed things for me as well. And so that's, how I arrived at where I am now, is women's health coaching, incorporating the mind, the body, and the spirit. Because I don't think that you can truly experience vibrant health without incorporating those three things, those three pillars. And now my intuition is something that I recognize, I trust, that I create space for every day. And it's interesting that we're doing this interview now, because before we started talking, I said, this is the second day of my period. That's when a woman's intuition is the highest. So I think it's quite fitting that I'm on a podcast called, The Intuition Queen. So that's a part of my story. Intuition is a big part of my story. Yeah.
You said that you felt it, so you followed it. Did you ever question why? Because you said that sometimes the choices that you made didn't really make any sense, or weren't aligned to, let's say, the way you were going towards a place or a situation. Did you ever find yourself to be like, what is this? Why? Or questioning or not following it?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah. It's only in the last couple of years that I have developed a deeper trust in my intuition and a faith in what I cannot see, being comfortable in the mystery, and knowing that sometimes I will have to say yes to things that my rational brain has not had the time or just does not have the ability to process. That it's part of a much larger plan that is out of my control, but of which I form a part. And that by not following those hits, I'm simply blocking the flow, and I am really slowing down my own life process, because I do feel like whatever's meant for you will always be meant for you.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we allow the rational mind to get in the way and try to make sense of everything. And so by following my intuition and trusting that, I've really been able to experience a lot more ease in my life. Sometimes it can feel scary, but if I ever do feel scared, I just go back to my trust in something greater than myself. And that's why I think that intuition and spirituality are inextricably linked, because I really do feel like it connects me to a higher realm, that it's not just about me. So yeah, it takes practice though. It takes a lot of practice and feedback. Okay, right. I trusted it. This was the result. I guess I can do that again.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that. I love that. So I love that you said that jealousy for you is actually something that tells you should be doing what is it that you're jealous of.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like an information is opposite to just a negative feeling you shouldn't be having.
Right. Now, I don't believe in discounting negative feelings. They need to be invited in and explored. Because they don't necessarily need to be fed at the dinner table, right? But they at least need to be welcomed in and like, why are you here? You've come to me for a reason. What's up?
Yeah.
Right? And the same thing with anger. You don't need to keep inviting anger back to the table, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them, but you could at least say, like, why have you come to my door? What is it that you are trying to tell me right now?
Yeah.
And a lot of times my anger comes up as a result of fear, something that I'm trying to control that is not for me to control. And I just need to release that.
Yeah.
A story that I've created around a set of events that is actually not based in truth. It's just based on my perception or my old wounds that I need to see differently. Sometimes it's a lack of compassion that I'm actually having for myself. I'm lacking compassion for myself in a situation, so I'm lacking compassion for another person because I've been shamed for something. I feel anger and shame towards someone else. I feel anger towards someone. I want them to experience that shame. This is all on a subconscious level, of course. I don't go out wishing that people would, but a lot of times when you do that, when you're willing to invite that in and have a chat with it, as opposed to just shutting the door and saying, I don't want you here. You realize what's actually underlying those emotions.
That's so true. And if you shut the door, it's going to come back stronger. So
Absolutely.
You better figure out what that means straight away.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that when I met you, you were a fertility coach, and now you're a women health coach, which is a more broad topic. What was your process to go into fertility coaching and then women health coaching?
Yeah. Well, this is another thing that was based on intuition, because I was really good at fertility coaching. My rational brain did not like my decision to stop fertility coaching because it was something that I had created a business around for 2 years. There's a lot involved in that, getting that up and running and off the ground. So it's like, you've invested all of this time and energy. Why would you want to let that go? And, as well as things like branding and, logo and colors and just my website, everything was geared toward a certain feel, a certain look, a certain type of client. And around the end of 2019, I just started to feel really uncomfortable in that. Almost like when you go to try on a suit that you haven't worn in years, and it's just, you haven't gained weight, but maybe your body's changed. And or maybe the suit's gone out of style and you put it on and you used to love it, but it's just not the right fit anymore. And that's how I started feeling about my business. And I started feeling very drained around my business. It wasn't energizing me like it should. like it does now. You know, I loved working with my clients individually, but the business itself was, the energy around it was very heavy. And I thought, what's going on here, you know? And then when I would see women calling themselves women's health coaches, or even women's coaches, you know, like I'm a women's coach, and I would see that and think, you know, it's that feeling of jealousy again, like, what's that about? I wish I could do that. And I was like, well, why can't you? You know? And in the beginning of 2019, I made the decision that initially it was just going to be a rebrand. I was still going to do fertility coaching, but in a different way, and call myself, you know, the fertile rebel, and just do a pivot. But then I realized, no, this, like, it just needs to be burned down. I need to let it all go. And that was one of the best decisions, at least of my business life, you know. I would say one of the best decisions of my life, because it's just in the last year, it's welcomed so many new experiences and opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So, you know, my intuition didn't let me down. And it's funny because I did a photo shoot last year with the theme of rebel in mind. And because of the, you know, pandemic, I haven't been able to get new brand photos, but I've been able to use those photos with my new Facebook group, which is called the Rebel Woman Health Collective, because they have that vibe of rebel. And, you know, my intuition was saying, like, go with the rebel thing, like, go with, you know, it's time to be bold. That's something that happened in the beginning of last year around my business, was it's time to be bold. That's the word that kept coming to me. Bold conversations, bold colors, being the full expression of yourself. You know, when I went, I gave a keynote address in London in July, and if I had still been in my fertility coaching role, I doubt I would have been there on stage in a red dress. But that was a given for me that day. It was like, I will be on that stage wearing red. And the funny thing is that when I first started my fertility coaching business, I hired a stylist to help me with the clothes for my first photo shoot. And she said, you need to stick with pastels, white, beige, petal pink, mint green. And even then, there was a part of me that was saying, I know this is not associated with fertility, but I want black, I want red, I want strong colors. And that's where I am now. And I think that a lot of times, you know, our intuition is connected to that super conscious vision that we have.
Yeah.
And the super conscious vision is connected to a realm that is beyond our imagination. So a lot of times it's hard to understand, like, this really goes against what should make sense, or what I can see that's directly in front of me.
Yeah.
But it's actually what's meant for you. That's actually the path to follow.
I agree. Yeah. So how did it feel for you? So you said you wanted different colors, but you still went with what you got told to go for.
Yeah.
Did that make any difference for you? Did you feel less capable of? Was there something, I guess, towards the end, of course, because then you decided to rebrand yourself and to change completely. But how did you feel at that point when you were still, you know, building everything up, and but you had that hit that, well, no, not necessarily those colors match me and what I want to do?
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of things that I still hadn't worked through at that point. This is 2017, the spring of 2017. I was just about to get divorced. I was really just beginning to find myself again after motherhood. And I didn't have the strong sense of identity that I do now.
Right.
So even though my intuition was high, there were a lot of things that were blocking it. And I did not want to believe that I knew better than someone who was claiming to be an expert. I still was not comfortable in claiming that title for myself. And there were definitely self-worth issues at play. Like, who am I to think that makes sense? She's studied this, she's worked with lots of clients around this. Like, who am I? And now I'm at the point where it's like, I'm Jolinda. Like, there's only one me, and this is what I want. This is why. And it might not make sense to you, but I only get one chance at this life. So any mistakes that I make are part of my learning and are mine to make. I would rather have mistakes be made as a result of my decisive action and my willingness to experiment than the opposite. Mistakes that happened as a result of me not being fully in my power, or me turning something over to someone else that was really my responsibility, for example. I'm really at a place where I'll be 38 this year, and I'm really at a place where I just feel like I'm going for it, like on all levels, because I'm not getting this life back. There's not one day of my life that I'm ever getting back. And I feel really fortunate that idea, as much as we hear it all the time, that this isn't a dress rehearsal, I feel really fortunate that at 38, I finally understand that fully and am living every day with that perspective in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you say that. And I think, of course, it comes with experience and working on yourself, and then standing up to, because of course they're experts and they know there are things, but sometimes you know better than them, just because you have a purpose that is very different from what they might see in you. I love that. I also had, like, my brand colors are my brand colors. Don't tell me about the palette. It's my brand color. Because it matches who you are. Your colors match who you are and how you feel. And so they should be reflecting that. And that's how you can attract the right people to become your clients and to follow you. Okay, so tell us about, what does it mean to be a women's health coach now?
Well, officially, my tagline is, I help women go from burnt out to blissed out. Because that feeling of burnout is one of the most common hormonal imbalances, just because as women in the 21st century, we are overstretched, overwhelmed, overstressed, overcommitted. And I really do believe in incorporating all of my skills as a life coach, all of my skills as a holistic health coach and all of my skills as a priestess. So really approaching health from mind, body, and spirit. And to have my knowledge of hormones play an integral part in that, because you can't talk about women's health without talking about hormones.
Oh yeah.
And I really think that people need to understand that hormones are not, because whenever I talk to people who aren't interested specifically in hormones, about hormones, they're like, well, like it's this, what does that have to do with me? It's like, what doesn't it have to do with you? Hormones are sleep, hormones are skin, hormones are hair, hormones are, unexpected weight gain or unexpected weight loss. Yeah. Hormones are how you react to stress. Hormones are your ability to think clearly, to wake up with energy, to go to bed tired, to have a regular menstrual cycle. What aren't hormones for a woman? To get pregnant easily, to bounce back from having a baby. And I don't mean, the type of bounce back that we're sold in the media. Like, it's gotta be, bikini ready 2 months postpartum. Yeah. But to actually go back to being yourself without experiencing extreme anxiety and depression or postpartum psychosis. So that's why I think that when I call myself a women's health coach, a lot of people are like, so is that like the type of women's health we're sold by the magazine? You must focus on weight loss, or you must focus on exercise, or you must focus on, youth and vitality. And to me, that's not truly women's health. That's what we're sold to believe. But if you are not aware of how your body works, if you're not aware of how your menstrual cycle affects your behavior and your choices throughout the month and your energy levels, if you aren't prepared for pregnancy before you're ready to have a baby, if you're not prepared for perimenopause before your first hot flash, that's not health to me. Yes. Health is being able to sustain a level of vibrancy and vitality throughout your entire life. And that comes from incorporating all of the mental practices, mental health, physical health, spiritual health. Because if one of those is missing, something will be off.
I love that you say that, because I feel, especially for women, certain things are supposed to be as they are. We had this conversation before, but periods are supposed to be painful. Yeah. Menopause is just something that happened to you at some point. And nothing, you don't really know, even for, if I think about, just the first day you have your period when you're a teenager. Yeah. I just don't remember my mom talking to me about it much, just that at some point I will have it. Yeah. And I will become a woman. Yeah. And then you're just going to have it for the rest of your, almost your life, every month, and that's it. Yeah. And this is what you do. Yeah. And nobody tells you what that entails and what happens inside of your body, what happens in terms of how you feel, how you behave, and as you said, in your skin and all of that. There is no preparation and not understanding of what women are. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the incredible power that comes from having that knowledge and understanding. A lot of us do not have full ownership of our bodies. Yeah. We disconnect completely from them. And I find this especially with, all of the women I work with are brilliant. You know, I work with brilliant women who want to live life to the fullest, big, bold, visionary leaders who want to step into a life of vibrancy.
Mm.
And it's very difficult to be vibrant when you have no understanding of your hormones, because everything that we're conditioned to think or do as women in the 21st century go against that vibrancy.
Yeah.
It actually kills it, you know, not connecting with your body on a regular basis through physical activity that actually nourishes your body. You know, a lot of us work against our bodies because we think that we need to, even though our bodies are saying that they need something gentle and restorative, we're like, but I'm not doing enough if I'm not doing the HIIT workout. I'm not doing enough if I'm not doing like the most advanced modification, even though my body is, you know, I do a lot of workouts, especially now, you know, on YouTube, and it's like, power through it. Don't give up. Don't listen to what your body is trying to say. Override. You know, a lot of messages we receive as women have to do with that override. You know, you were expected to be at the same level all month long.
Yeah, which is not possible.
Which is not possible. So that, you know, the first half of the menstrual cycle, after our periods, which really should not be a painful time, it should be a period of slowing down, taking care of ourselves a little more than usual, delegating, having space so that we can turn inward and get in touch with our intuition if we're not doing that as a daily practice. But really a time to kind of, you know, slow down. But after that, you know, estrogen starts rising. And with that comes greater optimism, greater energy, a willingness to be out in the world, to make connections, to think outside of the box, big picture. As you approach ovulation, you get a hit of testosterone, which makes you feel extra confident, sexy, all those things that we associate with, you know, the maiden, and then eventually the mother, you know, being everything to everyone, doing all the things, like ever giving. But then after ovulation, depending on how sensitive you are to your hormones, you might experience that as like a drop off a cliff. I mean, women who have PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, who are hypersensitive to changes in estrogen, after ovulation, it's like they go from up here on top of the world to, you know, the bottom of the canyon. And a lot of times it takes years for them to even realize that that's what's happening, because they're not tracking their menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I feel really bad right now and I'm not sure why. That's out of the blue. If you know when you ovulate, then it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. But then with every woman in our luteal phase, in the second half of the menstrual cycle, it is a time of gradual retreat. As you get closer to your period, you aren't so interested in the outside world. You want to devote yourself to your own things, your own projects, the nitty gritty. You become very detail oriented. So maybe in the first half of your cycle, you wanted to think big and create something new. And then in the second half, that's a great time to really get down to business. Like, okay, I'm taking this big picture and I'm bringing it to life, but I also want time alone to do that. I don't need other people involved. It's my time.
Yeah.
But if you're holding yourself to that standard in the first half of the cycle, then you start to think like, well, I actually feel like being alone right now, but I should want to be with the people that I said yes to in the first half of my cycle. I've got this commitment in my calendar that sounded really good a couple weeks ago. Now I don't want to do it at all, but I said yes. I don't want to seem like a bad person. Then we get into the, okay, right, I have to be the same woman all month long. And
it's so true.
when we start working against ourselves in that way, whenever we say yes to other people, other commitments that we don't actually want to do, we're saying no to ourselves. And the more times we say no to ourselves, the more anger we experience, the more resentment we experience, the more likely it is that we'll experience burnout, because we're working against the natural flow of things. And so it's it can really fuel those conversations that the inner critic likes to lead.
Have so much with us. Yeah.
Our inner critic is more active in the second half of the menstrual cycle anyway. But if you don't have an understanding of what's happening, how your hormones are affecting you, and how to address the concerns of the inner critic with compassion, then what usually ends up happening is, right, I'm not doing all the things all the time like I'm supposed to be doing. That means I'm not measuring up, and I can't let that happen. So I'm going to do my best to do all the things all the time, even though I really don't want to. I really don't feel like it. Oh, I suck.
Yeah.
You know.
That's right. That's right. And I like that you talked about it, because I feel that, a lot of women's like, okay, yeah, I have my cycle. I'm good. Yeah. I'm healthy because everything is fine. I just have it. And then, as you said, they just pull through for the rest of the month with a really looking at the fluctuations that are normal for us to have, and really listening. And that's what happens, that causes all of the feelings that we have, that we hold on to, and it becomes something else. And maybe you have certain reactions that you wouldn't normally, but just because you didn't listen to yourself, and you didn't allow yourself to rest, or to just be out there bubbly and
to
all
have
over.
Space.
Yeah.
To have space for yourself. A lot of times when we don't allow ourselves the time and space, what I like to call sacred space, to simply be with our feelings, to process whatever's coming up, especially if we are trying to take care of other people, or expected to take care of other people, in the case of those who have small children, a lot of times unless you stake a claim and say, this is mama's time, like with intention, this is mama's time, then they'll always be on top of you. And you'll never get that chance to disconnect, because there will always be opportunities to give and give and give and give and give.
Yeah.
And so to be able to say, I want to give from a place of fullness, and to give from a place of fullness means that I need to have time away. Maybe that is, time when they're sleeping, but that instead of watching a series on Netflix, you are staying committed to a meditation practice.
Yeah.
At an altar that is a reflection of your self, that has nothing to do with your children. That is all about you, independent from the mother, for example, which is really important as well, because we are not our children.
Oh, I like that.
our children come through us, but we are not them and they are not ours. They come through us and they're here with us for a limited time.
Yeah, I love what you just said, because I think that a lot of women feel that this pressure and this guilt having to just always be there and not really realizing that you can detach, or what limits, of course, because obviously your children will always need you, but you also are a woman, and you're still gonna be a woman even if you become a mother or a wife. So it's important not to lose that part of yourself, because otherwise then you get overwhelmed and all the feelings that comes with that, because you never have the space for you.
Absolutely. And the second half of the menstrual cycle, and especially menstruation, are times for the self. It's also time to look at what isn't working, what needs to fall away. If we think of the menstrual cycle as seasons, you can think of them as seasons or as archetypes. So menstruation, winter, the first part of the follicular phase, spring, right around ovulation, summer, and the luteal phase, fall. Female archetypes, the menstruation is the crone, then going into the maiden, and you can feel that energy. You feel lighter, you feel it's a very childlike energy. I'm curious about the world, I want to be out, I want to be seen. The mother, for ovulation, right? I am bringing life to all of these things. I am full of life, I am expanding. I am capable of giving more. More of my time, more of my attention, more of my energy to other people. And then it's the sorceress in the luteal phase. So I'm taking all of these things that things I've experienced in the first half, I'm using them to, for my own purposes. To create something for myself. And it's a very interesting process to be engaged in once you're aware of it.
I agree. I didn't know about that. I learned in all the things that I started studying, and it makes such a big difference.
Absolutely.
It's such a big difference to know what's going on with your body, and to know when you feel like at the top that you want to do so much, and when you feel like you don't want to do anything, you just want to be, as you said, with yourself, doing your thing, but not necessarily stay around people or do things that you would in another week or in another phase. It just makes so much it's just very valuable, because you learn so much more about yourself, and you can also tell other people, look, I'm in this phase, so I'll see you next week, without feeling like guilty because you had a commitment and you said yes, and now you don't want to go or anything like this, and that causes all again frustration and guilt and
well, anytime you're experiencing guilt, what I like to call unearned guilt, it's because you're holding yourself to an impossible standard.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of times the impossible standard we're holding ourselves to is, I am supposed to be the same every week of the month. And if I'm not that way, I am doing something wrong, or I'm letting someone down. That's also why it's important to have those boundaries that you are confident in, that you respect, and that you help other people to respect. But that comes from a place of self-worth. So, this is just one of many examples of how, when we're talking about women's health, this is all related. I lack self-worth, therefore I don't have boundaries, therefore I overextend myself, therefore I don't respect my menstrual cycle or my normal hormonal fluctuations. I start working against those, and all of a sudden I have raging PMS, I have stress hormones that are on overdrive, that are suppressing my progesterone, that are contributing to my PMS, that are suppressing my thyroid function, that are leading me into a very difficult time as I approach menopause. You know, I mean, if these things go unchecked throughout the course of a woman's life, they end up in chronic conditions. They end up in problems that are not easily remedied. Let's just say that.
Right. Yeah.
That take a lot of time to work through on a physical level, on a mental and emotional and spiritual level, like a lot of time to unpack. So if you're a woman in your 20s listening to this, it's like, okay, maybe I need to be aware of what's involved in getting pregnant eventually, if I think I might have motherhood in mind. If I'm a woman in my 30s, maybe I need to start thinking about what's involved in like what actually happens during perimenopause, and like, what am I doing to support that or not? You know, so much of it is being proactive, and yet we don't have these conversations ahead of time.
No, not at all.
You know, and even women who are actually in it, we're so used to just enduring, you know, like, this is normal. This is because a lot of us, our mothers do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, so like, that's just part of it. That's just normal. You know, so then we discount our own experiences, or we think that it's all going to be solved if we go to the doctor. A lot of times the doctors will give us lab reports saying you're fine, even though we're having all of these symptoms, like our hair falling out, like, you know, weight that keeps coming on despite. That's like one of the biggest myths about weight gain. It's not about calories in, calories out if your hormones aren't working right.
That's right. Yeah. And I feel, and this is a conversation we should have more and more. And I like that you're doing this, because pretty much all women have some sort of hormonal imbalance, if not something even more critical, like tiny diseases that turn into something different.
Yeah.
And we need to really understand our body, because our body speaks to us.
Yes, it speaks to us in whispers until it gets to scream.
Exactly. So if we really start to learn so much about how the menstrual cycle actually works, and our hormones actually work, what they're there for, and the fact that they're not always going to be the same. And if you have that kind of problem, doesn't mean you're always going to have it. You can work through it. You can understand where it comes from, because a lot of also hormonal problems come from emotions and things we've gone through in a young age that haven't been sorted out, and people don't really understand and learn this. And so you think you have something, but like that, it's not necessarily because you just have to have it. It's because maybe you have to work through the fact that you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're repressing yourself in some kind of way. And so your body is giving you as much information as possible for you to do something about it.
I mean, if you look at blood sugar balance, for example, right? I mean, that's basic for hormonal balance, is blood sugar balance. But how are you supposed to keep your blood sugar balanced when your coping mechanism for when life gets tough is the ice cream, is the cookies, is, you know, the alcohol? it doesn't matter how much you know about nutrition if the emotional brain only has food to go to when it gets scared.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to, again, override. That's what's going to override everything that you've read in, you know, the latest article or the book that's been on your shelf for years. You know, it's like, I'm feeling something I don't want to feel, going to the fridge.
Yeah.
So
how do you snap out of this habit? Because when you're not even aware this is happening to you, what would you say is one thing that you can do, or more thing, if you have any tips, to really figure out and understand what's going on with you, how to snap out of this coping mechanism that are actually going against you?
Yeah. Well, you know, it depends on what's driving it. Because if it's fear, for example, then how can you experience comfort when you know, can't have food? How if you couldn't have food, how would you comfort yourself? And a lot of us don't know the answer to that. So it's starting to explore other things like meditation, like breathing, like allowing yourself to actually feel comfortable in creative ways, like putting on a really nice pair of pajamas and fuzzy socks, wrapping yourself up in a warm blanket, cuddling a stuffed animal, which sounds silly, but you know, my son has a giant teddy bear, and there are times when he goes with his dad. You know, I'm divorced. He goes with his dad, and I'm grateful for having the time to myself, but I also miss him. And so, you know, what I want is to have him there next to me. I don't actually want a box of cookies.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we'll go to the box of cookies because we don't want to feel the pain of no longer having our child next to us, for example. Another big part is of that, you know, allowing yourself to be comforted or feel comfortable in other ways, is giving yourself permission. You know, because a lot of times our intuition will tell us, like, go and buy yourself some flowers, or go and sit with the teddy bear, or go and sit at your altar and diffuse some essential oils, light a candle, and we'll say, no, I don't have time for that. I need to be doing something else. And food will also become a way to do nothing. When we need space, when we need a break, that the rational brain understands as, but I have to eat. So it's like an excuse to do nothing, when really what we need is just to press the pause button for a minute.
Yeah.
We don't actually need food. We just need to stop and give ourselves permission to stop.
Right. Yeah.
And also self-compassion. You know, self-compassion is life-changing. Because a lot of us will turn to food as a coping mechanism when our inner critic is being really hard on us, or when we are afraid of what the inner critic has to say, or when we're caught in a shame spiral because of a story that the inner critic is spewing. And self-compassion is the antidote for that. You know, so I will talk about with my clients, you know, we need to take a self-compassion break. And you can take a self-compassion break in as little as 2 minutes a day. Place your hands on your heart, connect with your breath, and, you know, however you want to say it, but the basic idea is, this is a moment of difficulty. This is really hard right now.
Yeah.
This sucks, you know.
Yeah.
And then say, everyone goes through this.
Yeah.
Everyone has moments like these.
Oh,
Connect
yeah.
to common humanity. And then express your desire to be kind to yourself. May I be kind to myself in this moment? I love myself. Or may I love myself? You know, because for a lot of people, just saying I love myself seems so untrue and confronting. May I love myself? May I show myself the compassion I need? I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you take away the power of the judge that has its grip on you, and you don't need to numb, because it's okay to be with those feelings.
Yeah.
It's okay for things not to be okay. It's okay to be human.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. We are we are taught to always stay positive and always be on a hype, and really what we really should go again is follow the motion and follow what's happening to us and how we feel, and just look at it and just, you know, acknowledge what's going on.
Yeah.
And if it's a hard time, it's a hard time, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a hard time for me and it's not a hard time for you, but we are two different people, so we cope in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's okay as well.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be as what you see around, that everything is glitters and you know, you can have your moments, and that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as you don't stay in that moment and you don't just continue to go down, and you just, you know, at least try to stay there for a little while and then find a way to feel better and do something about it.
I mean, a lot of times just by acknowledging the feeling, you are able to move through it.
Yeah, that's true.
As opposed to, I shouldn't be feeling that way, creating a story around it, giving it meaning, you know, meaning that it doesn't need to have.
Yeah.
You know, for example, I see a lot of coaches judging themselves when they are not always positive and optimistic. You know, I'm a life coach, I shouldn't feel this way, I should always see the sunny side. It's like, no, you know, like, part of for me, an even larger part of being a life coach than always seeing the sunny side is being comfortable in the dark.
Yeah, it's authenticity. I mean, you also go through certain moments, like we are humans, as you said earlier. And so yes, we're here to help other people to get to a better place and achieve their goals and feel better and learn something new about themselves and their life. But we have to go through our own processes and our own lives. So yeah, you wake up a morning and you just don't feel it, and that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, Jolinda, thank you so much. We kind of need to wrap up. So if we want to work with you, where can we find you?
So the best place to actually find me is in my Facebook group, the Rebel Woman Health Collective. But I obviously have a website. That's jolindajohnson.com, as well as an Instagram account, Coach Jolinda. My Facebook page is the same, at Coach Jolinda. But if you really want to find me, interact with me, learn from me, and other women who are sure to inspire you, because I do regular interviews as well. That's my Facebook group, the Rebel Woman Health Collective. Okay.
We will put the links and everything on the show notes, and for who is watching, you can also see them passing by. But yeah, before we go, what would be one thing that you feel women should know about their health aside from what we talked about?
That it's never too early to start learning about your body. And if you have a period, you will one day go through menopause, and it's more than just hot flashes. It's a huge transition in a woman's life that's not given a lot of attention. So, just be proactive. If you think that you might want to be a mother someday, learn about fertility way before you even want to have kids. If you are struggling with any hormonal issues in your 30s, learn about perimenopause. It might not be coming for another 10 years, but at least you'll have the time to make the changes that will actually make a difference. Don't play a game of catch up. Be proactive.
I like that. Amazing. Thank you so much. Yes?
Can I just share one thing?
Of course.
For those women who have no interest in kids, because I totally respect that choice, know that issues related to fertility also have to do with you. Because being on hormonal birth control for all of those years will also have an impact on you later on, regardless of whether you want to have kids. Know how it's affecting your body, know the advantages of having a natural cycle, and make an informed decision. That's the thing, informed. Everyone can choose how she likes, but actually know what's happening in your body.
The consequences. Yeah, absolutely. So important, because I think we all went through whatever and then figure out that maybe that wasn't the right way. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jolinda. That was such a beautiful and powerful conversation that I definitely we need to hear more. So please do check her group to learn more, because this is a conversation all level, all years. It doesn't matter. All women have to have. Thank you so much for being on my podcast today. Wow, what an important conversation we had with Jolinda. It's so great to know so much about ourselves, and we take too many things for granted, and really should dig in and get informed about how our health will impact our lives in the future, but also every area of our life, wherever we are at the moment. So please do join her on our Facebook group. She is amazing. And I hope you like this episode. Please do share it with all the women that you know. Everybody needs to know about this. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can find me on theintuitionqueen.com, and I'm most active on Instagram as the Intuition Queen. On my website, you can find a lot of free resources and different ways for me to help you. I have one-off coaching sessions, healing sessions, intuitive sessions, and I also have a 4-month program where I'll help you to understand more about you, connect to your intuition, use your creativity, because you are all intuitive and you're all creative, and find your purpose. So if you feel that nudge that you want to be more, you want to change your life, please do get in touch. We can have a free conversation first to figure out what's going on and how I can help you, and if we are a good fit, and then we can take it from there. I hope this episode was useful for you. Do leave me comments, and I'll see you next week.
Your heart is full and wanting more. Your future's at the door.